Hello and welcome back to All for United, and this is just another United transfer show. It's Monday, so you know it is. You know it's another United transfer show. What you might not be aware of, it's Donny van De Beek transfer special. Yes, welcome to Manchester United, Donny van De Beek. I might be a little bit premature because he's still got a path medical yet, but I'm pretty sure that this deal is close to anything that we're going to get this summer right now. So I'm delighted to say that yes, this is a special, but for this special, I'm joined by my usual guest, Hader. How are you doing, mate?
Delighted to be here as always, but extra delighted today.
Yeah. This feels like a great day. Well, for Manchester United, it's been a great weekend. To be fair, the news first broke on Saturday evening, and then obviously it became common knowledge yesterday that we'd agreed a fee. I'm joined also today, I'm delighted to say, by two Dutch football experts. I'll introduce you first, Mike. Do you want to tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do with Dutch football?
Yeah, so in my spare time, really, I like to write for footballadvantage.com, biggest Dutch football website in the English language. We like to write about stuff, talk about stuff, and yeah, anything Dutch national team or Dutch Eredivisie, we're on top of it. So if you're a fan or if you're someone that's new to Dutch football, come and check us out. We'll be happy to have you.
Yeah, brilliant. No, I've seen a bit of your work, mate. It looks great, and it's great to have you on today and to give your insight. And last but by no means least, James, I'm joined by you, who you were telling me off air. You've lived over in Holland for over the last decade now. Would you like to tell us where your expertise comes on Dutch football?
Yeah, hello everybody. My name is James Rowe. I'm a Dutch football writer with 5 years experience of my own interviews with professional players and managers, as well as post and pre-match press conferences and also UK radio work. So keeping me very, very busy. And thanks for having me on tonight. Very much appreciated.
No, we're delighted to have you on, mate. Right, don't forget, guys, if you don't know already, we're live right now. So do get your comments in. The best ones will go on the screen. We'll also try and get some of your questions out to journalists, but we have got a packed show tonight. But we'll do your best to get your questions to the journalists and, of course, to Hader if they're directed that way. We are so close to 1,000 subscribers on the channel now, so smash the hell out of that subscribe button. Give the video a like. Keep your eye on all our content coming up. We've got a new season starting in a few weeks, and the channel is going to go huge with some brand new content and some shows that have been running throughout our time. So keep your eye on everything there. So as we've said at the start of the video, it's a Donny van De Beek special. He agreed a fee. We found out yesterday, well, United agreed a fee with Ajax for £40 million. Represents really good business as far as I'm concerned. I think it's a deal that's delighted most fans, to be fair, because it feels like a deal that United fans have been calling for, and it feels as if the board have taken note and gone with it. I mean, first of all, Hader, I'll come to you, because I know you're delighted with it, mate. How does it feel to finally get that first signing over the line as a United fan?
It's a great feeling, but I think the key thing about the deal is that it's the type of player we're bringing in. In the past, United have spent a lot of money, but they've spent it badly. So to sign a player of this caliber who was chased by Real Madrid and Barcelona, and to sign him for such a reasonable fee like that, considering his age, his profile, his ability right now, as well as his potential, I think it represents great business for Man United. So, look, I think that it's a bit of a difficult summer, obviously, with COVID, and we're unsure about the finances. But to secure a player of that quality, when you're looking at what's after sort of Bruno and Pogba, you look at the Lingards and Pereiras of the world who just aren't up to it. And you're bringing in a player who not only can obviously rotate, but he can push the likes of Bruno and Pogba to start. He's got that much ability. So you need that competition in the squad to move on and push on to challenge for titles and obviously for Champions League. So, but what I do want to say is that I've got so much respect for everybody involved at Ajax, from the players, the ex-players, even the fans. All I've seen on Twitter over the past sort of 24 hours is just how classy the fans are, in particular, wishing Van de Beek the best. It's clear how highly he is rated and loved at Ajax by fans and ex-players alike. And Ajax is a fantastic football club with such a rich history, unbelievable record of producing top talent. And I'm sure they've got many more Van de Beeks coming through, their conveyor belt of talent in the academy. But I just want to say that such a classy club, and I'm just really happy at the way that we conducted our business in a timely fashion, but also having such a good relationship with such a brilliant club. So I'm so excited. He seems like the right profile. He's got a great mentality by the looks of it, and he's just very talented. So yeah, fantastic business for United, and United fans should be very excited.
Yeah, no, I couldn't say it better, Hayder. I think you're absolutely spot on, mate, to be fair. But I want to take a little bit of a look at the deal, especially while I've got you two guys here. I'm going to come to you on this, Michael, because it was a deal that we know he's a player that's interested in United. We knew that back in January. We knew it at the start of this summer. But it really sort of gathered pace over the weekend. And obviously over here, we started hearing things on Saturday evening that something could be happening. By Sunday, they'd agreed a fee. And obviously it's Monday today. And as we speak, apparently he's having his medical right now with the Dutch national team. Can you give us a bit of a timeline of events to sort of how this deal's come about?
Well, I would have said that it came about last summer, really, when it all started, because he'd been with Ajax regularly for 3 years, and a lot of people were looking at him thinking, well, he's destined to make a big transfer, just like the Frenkie de Jongs and the Matthijs de Ligts out there. So it all sort of began last summer, and then I believe that Donny van De Beek wished to stay for another year with Ajax and be more of a leader on the pitch, contribute even more for the team. And then, of course, we've had all this coronavirus crisis, and it's led to the transfer window being open till October. So really, it's still quite early on in the transfer window. So this transfer is still quite early days. Most clubs haven't really been able to do too much business. But I'm sure this transfer is great news for United fans. Yeah, and in terms of the recent timeline, Ajax returned to training, and there was some interest from Barcelona once Koeman took over, and I think maybe that might have been what pushed United over the line, just to sort of get that transfer done. But once United put their offer in, I do believe that Ajax are pretty quick to reply, and I don't think they even did too much negotiating. I think they just said, "Yeah, you've met the price, you can have him." And then, yeah, he missed training. He did some individual Ajax training, and now here we are. He's gone with the Dutch national team, and he's had to miss their first training session because he's currently having a medical.
Yeah, and it's really interesting there that you said obviously about the interest from Barcelona. We know that there was interest before the pandemic, obviously with Real Madrid, but that's not being followed up because obviously they're unsure about their sort of finances. One thing that I just want to ask you about, see if you know, is it's been suggested a lot over the weekend that indeed the director of football, Edwin van der Sar, obviously ex-United goalkeeper, he's played a big part in this deal in terms of maybe, I don't know, convincing Donny or working with United. Just how important do you feel, Edwin may have been in getting this deal over the line for United?
Personally, I'm not so sure, just because if United were the only one that put the money down the table, then his role might not have been too important. However, there has been reported interest that from Van der Sar that he helped the transfer happen. And it wouldn't surprise me at all. And I'm sure that once United were on the phone, he was giving really good recommendations about him, of just how good a player he can be. Yeah.
Okay. No, that's brilliant, mate. Thank you, James. I'll come to you now. I mean, obviously, like I said, the deal's £40 million. As far as I'm concerned, from what I know, you know a lot more about the player than me. That seems to be a brilliant deal for United and a shrewd piece of business. But you know the player better than me. Like I say, do you think £40 million, well, £40 million, €45 million, whatever, do you think that represents good business for United?
I do, particularly from a Premier League club. This is the rumours regarding Real Madrid were around for such a long time. And it appeared it was only a question of time before he may well go to Real Madrid. It was a question of when they were going to come in. You could even argue in some cases, was he waiting for Real Madrid? So United have done particularly well. But United have got a great character, not just an excellent footballer, but a great character. Someone who's very reliable, someone who's always looking to get forward, and he's got a tremendous work rate. And he won't shy away from the task of playing for Man United. I think he'll embrace it fully. And so United can give ourselves a huge pat on the back to get someone like that at a very young age still, who will no doubt only improve as a professional footballer.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely spot on. And I think, like I said before, he's a player that United seem to have sort of, it's one that the fans wanted, if you know what I mean. And there's been plenty of times over the last few seasons that United fans have called for players and know exactly what type of player we'd like, but we wouldn't normally get them. But shouldn't you? Staying with you, James, do you think United should be encouraged that that he was linked to a whole host of clubs, and yet through it all, he still chose United? Because I know you can argue that Barcelona and Real Madrid maybe didn't put the money down when they needed to, but at £40 million, you feel it's a deal that those clubs could have done if they'd have really wanted the player, or So obviously United have done something to convince Donny, and it's quite a coup for them, I would imagine, isn't it?
I believe so. I think if you look at it objectively with the rumblings behind the scenes at Barcelona, and also the Real Madrid's fruitful loan policy of their young players, especially in midfield, I think there's reasons as to why those two clubs didn't come in. I don't think it's to the detriment of the player. I think it's due to the policies that Barcelona have.
Yeah, no, fair. That's absolutely fine. And Hayder, coming to you, I mean, obviously, like we've said off air and we've said recently, the board have come into some criticism on this show. In the last couple, as recently as the last couple of weeks, and but I think credit where credit's due here, because obviously they've seen an opportunity to do a deal. They realise that it's a great price for a player. We know that because the guys have told us there that he's a bargain at 40 million. And instead of the usual haggling that they do and the arguing over 5 million here or there, they've just got on with it and got it done. And I think, like I said, credit where credit's due. I think we need to say that, don't we?
It's a tough one. Look, I'm still going to maintain my stance at the beginning of the summer, where I know we look at Chelsea and obviously they've gone and wrapped up 7 signings. United, what they don't do, which is a big problem for us, is that they don't get the signings in early. I know a lot of people have an issue with that. They say, oh, it doesn't matter as long as the players are there. For me, it's important to integrate the players in early. It's important to, ensure the business is done so the manager has enough time before the season starts to work together. Obviously, circumstances are different this summer. You have, obviously, COVID, a very small window before the season starts. So, look, I'm going to say, yes, the board did well to get this done so quickly, but Van De Beek was a deal that could have been done very early on. United just had to pay the money and he would have got him in. So for me, I just think that, yes, I'll give credit that they've acted swiftly over the past 24 hours or so. Obviously, there's been groundwork that's been going on for 6 months, but I'm not going to give them credit for the way we do our business, because we've seen for the past 7 years, we don't get it done early. And that's my frustration. But look, I'm not going to go and talk about the ownership because everyone knows my views very clearly on the owners and Woodward. But look, some more of those signings, please, and let's focus on Sancho then. If the price is obviously too high later on in the window, let's get a few more in. Let's get the likes of Van De Beek and a few more smaller ones in, and then we focus all our energies onto Sancho, because that's still a real priority for us. But what I will say is that Ollie's signing spot, Jen, if you look at the players he's brought in, I would say pretty much all of them have been our better signings over the last 7 years. Clearly, this new transfer committee that's been brought in is working. It is identifying good talent. So that is a positive. But for me, there still needs to be more footballing people in footballing positions, because we need to be quicker with our recruitment and our business in the summer.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons that I like about this deal is that it's almost like 3 players in one for me. He seems like a player during a match who could play the 3 midfield roles that we have. We've almost played our 3 in a line, it seems. So obviously Bruno just behind the strikers, then Pogba just behind him, and then almost like a CDM behind him. I know it's probably not quite like that, but that's how it seems at times. And I feel he can play all those 3 roles at some point during a game, sort of thing. So that's why I think, for me, it represents fantastic business. And he's the kind of player that, if he plays well, will walk straight into the team. And he's also the player that will sit out some games, but will be a more than able deputy if he has to come on. And he's the type of player Ollie can look round to his bench now and say, yes, you can come on and you can make a difference in games. Now, Michael, we've already still on the deal. We've obviously touched on the fact that he's having medicals today. We know that these things can drag out a little bit. It's been reported in England that if he's to be able to come to England and not serve a 14-day quarantine period, he's got to have signed for United before Holland play their first friendly in the Nations League. I mean, just from your point of view, how long do you think it'll be until we see the official photos now of him holding this shirt? When can you see this actually being signed, sealed and delivered?
It's all moved so quick that I really wouldn't be surprised if it's tomorrow or the day after. I really wouldn't. Yeah, the quarantine's a good point because that could scupper that unless they have a photo where he is in the Netherlands. Yeah. I reckon it'd be this week because he'll want to be playing in that polo match, which is on Friday. So it could be Wednesday or Thursday. We hear more.
Yeah, no, thank you, mate. That's fine, because I think that's the thing with United fans, Hader. You know, we don't take anything for granted, do we? Until we're here, we see the player with the shirt holding it up, and that's what it's all about. James, I'll come on to you in terms of his position within the Holland team. I don't think this should have any bearing. Obviously, he'll do his medical for United, and then he should be free to play in these games. So it'll be an opportunity for some United fans to catch a glimpse of him, won't it?
Absolutely. He was capped. He's gained a fair few caps. Obviously, Ronald Koeman has recently left, and Dwight Lodewegers will be taking over as caretaker. But he may well play in the games against Poland, and I'd be interested to see what happens. I think he'll be on a high with the transfer as well. And medicals can indeed take a long time, but I think it's a great move for all parties. And in terms of his position, you know, I'll make one thing clear to the viewers and to the listeners. He's got a lot more presence about him, particularly this season before the COVID outbreak. You also saw moments of it in the Champions League in terms of goals against Tottenham, for example, and the presence on the pitch. And people, if they've got a spare few minutes, try to catch the highlights of the match against Ajax FC Utrecht from last November, in which Ajax won 4-0 and he scored 2 goals. And if you watch him in that game, I was at that game and watched him live. If United fans have got a spare 5 minutes to watch that highlight reel, watch him off the ball, and you'll be very impressed indeed. And I think it's very, very promising for the future for Manchester United.
Yeah, thanks, James. And that leads me into the next part of the show, really. Obviously, we've taken a look at the deal there. We've sort of broken it down. We've looked at how it's sort of come about. But what of the man and what of the player? So obviously, you know, for some of us over here, the only chances we've had to catch a glimpse of him has been during the Champions League, because we don't get a lot of Eredivisie football over here. So James, I'm going to come back to you on this one, because obviously you've sort of kind of given us a bit of an insight into what to expect. But for people that aren't as familiar with Donny and the type of player that he is out there, people watching, and indeed myself and Hader, what can we expect to see? What kind of player are we signing here?
You can expect to see a player with an excellent work rate and someone is very reliable. You know, it's very much a team player. There's no individuality about him in the sense where it's all about him. You know, he's there to service the team and to help the team. I think you'll see him making a lot of late runs into the box, trying to get on the end of things, trying to make things happen. And I think, you know, with his mannerisms of working very hard, I think he'll look to make an impact in the Premier League straight away. I don't think he'll hide behind the fact that it's a transfer and he needs time to adapt. As I say, I made the point about the presence because I think particularly in the Premier League, it's going to be noticeable. And, you know, we saw that as the years rolled on. You know, he made his debut at a very young age. And, you know, as the time went on, he had much more of a presence on the pitch. But a very hard-working, reliable, clever footballer who I think will do very well in the Premier League.
Yeah, and, you know, I just want to say some brilliant questions coming in here from people. People are kind of keen to learn about the player, where his best position is. So, Michael, I'm going to come to you now in terms of his best position and where he's been most effective for Ajax. I mentioned earlier I feel he could play across United's midfield. For you, when you've seen him play for Ajax, where is he most effective?
That has changed over the years because he started off as a defensive midfielder with the Ajax Academy and playing with the second team, young Ajax. But then he became more of an 8. And then slowly but surely, the last 2 years, he's been an attacking midfielder instead, where he's been so impactful in the Champions League and in the Eredivisie as well. Just the way that he can be so effective as a 10, feeding off a striker, coming near to the wingers and really working with that close technical play to beat tough to big defences. So I personally don't see him playing as a defensive midfielder for Manchester United. I think that's for somebody else, someone who's a lot more skilled. He was very good as a defensive midfielder when there were teams where they had to break them down, and there wasn't a lot of defending to do. But that's changed, obviously, in those Champions League games. You know what this transfer reminds me of? It reminds me of when I was a child. I used to watch United a bit, and Jason Park was brought out for those big games. I think that Van de Beek's a bit like that, where he's been brought out for those really big games playing as a 10. But I wouldn't be surprised to see him play as an 8 either. I think there's a lot of flexibility in why he was signed. I don't think he's a bench player who's going to come on only as an attacking midfielder. He'll play in a range of positions for me.
Yeah, and one thing that I was interested to sort of see, last night was apparently since 2018, I've got a real bright thing on my screen here. Since 2018, he seems to be he's a player that's won more penalties for Ajax than any other player, and it's interesting because, as you know, United have had a lot of stick this season for the amount of penalties that they've got. So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's just another string to his bow and another brilliant signing. As far as United are concerned, I'm having real issues with the screen, so I'm going to pass over to one of you guys while I sort it out. James, why do you think it is that he's won so many penalties? Is it a little bit like Michael said, his game's moved on to the point now which he's much more advanced up the pitch, and is that why he's winning these penalties?
Michael makes a great point about the journey that he's been on. Starting out as a defensive midfielder and going to the number 8 position, and then playing as an attacking midfielder. That point by Michael was excellent because it shows the qualities needed that have helped him to grow as a professional footballer. And I think driving the team forward and getting on the end of things and trying to make things happen is the reason why he won so many penalties. But in terms of Ajax, it was always a collective. And I think he'll look to do the same at Manchester United. He'll look to be part of a collective. And it's just be very interesting to see. I think the intensity of the Premier League will be completely different. Some people often malign Eredivisie as a league which isn't great. But I've always said, as someone who's watched it for more than a decade, it's always an acquired taste. And if you look about the journeys that players have been on, and how players can grow. I mean, you take Martin de Roon, for example, at Atalanta. He was fantastic at Heerenveen. And, that the Eredivisie was his grounding as a professional footballer. And Van de Beek's grounding has also been very impressive. So it'll be very interesting to see how he gets on.
Yeah, definitely. And Hader, coming to you from United's point of view, obviously we've talked a lot on this transfer show about the type of player that we would obviously try and sign this season. We know we've been linked with right wingers, strikers, defensive and midfielders, and we've always said obviously a midfielder is something that we need. I think he's a perfect signing for the squad in that position of midfield, don't you?
Yeah, I agree with both the guys about him not being a defensive midfielder. I think there's this kind of misconception that he's going to come in and play, alongside Pogba and with Bruno further forward. And another misconception, I think, is that people think he's just going to be sort of a Lingard come off the bench. He's going to push Bruno and Pogba for those starting positions. I think people need to remember that he played in the Champions League semi-final. He's been a main man for Ajax. If you look at his record, 40 goals, 34 assists in 159 games. His injury record, I was looking at sort of the games he's played over the last 4 seasons, is brilliant. He's played over 30 games. And he's a big game player. He scored against Spurs and Chelsea in the Champions League. And I believe he scored against Juventus as well. So this is a player that's been playing European football probably more than our squad. If you look at our squad, we haven't played much Champions League football over the past 4 seasons. So what I like about him, though, is that he is versatile. He can play central midfielder, attacking mid, box to box. And what I like is that he can link defense with attack. And that's something that United have struggled for a number of years until obviously Bruno came in, and obviously we've had Pogba. So for me, he's more offensively minded. And I agree with Michael that if we are playing perhaps a smaller team where they're going to sit back and we have to unlock defense, I could possibly see him, Pogba and Bruno playing together. But that obviously exposes the defense. And I think that's where fans have to realize that in the big games, we're not going to go and play a midfield that is that offensively minded. While Pogba's been brilliant sort of playing closer to Matic, I do think that that's where he's possibly being wasted. So I do expect Van de Beek to rotate, but I do expect to play instead of, maybe instead of Bruno. But I think where he really does excel, like the 2 guys have said, is that he makes these runs into the box, and he's not afraid to make those runs, sort of gambling on that last man, looking for the incisive pass from the midfielders. And I think that's where Pogba's really going to have a field day, playing those incisive passes, and he makes these excellent late runs. And also, he's not afraid to sit deep and work hard defensively. If you look at his average of tackles, he's had 2 per game. That's 4th highest in the Ajax team this season. But I think one of the most telling quotes that I was having a read about earlier was from Pochettino, and he said that there's a rare intelligence to Van de Beek's style. He has this ability to drift between the lines of the opposition, linking the midfield and attack, finding dangerous pockets of space in the final third. It's a really difficult skill to coach. And I'm looking at the squad, and I don't think there's many players that actually can do that. Look, I think Lingard is not good enough, clearly. I'm not saying Van de Beek is like Lingard, but Lingard, when he was having a good spell under Mourinho, what he did really well is his movement was excellent, but he didn't have the end product that a Van de Beek would bring. So, coupling that movement with that end product and assists and crossing, etc., I think we've got a real player on our hand, one that's willing to work hard, but can also couple that with quality. So I'm really, really excited. And when you look at the other players we've looked at, you do mention, Jack Grealish, I'm a big fan of, but at that price, you could probably go and get Thiago and Van de Beek for 70 million. Yeah. So that's what I'm looking towards. And that's who would be better in that defensive role, a Thiago sort of player, which, I know everyone else out there agrees, but he's world class, the best, playing in the best midfield in Europe, best team in Europe. He's a player that would be much more suited to that defensive midfield role next to Pogba.
Yeah. Now, I've just got to ask you, Hayden, did you feel pressured to mention Jack Grealish? Because Michael, one of our guests here, is wearing a Villa shirt, and he's probably a big
I'm a massive Grealish fan. Massive. I would still take him at United, but the price is too much, unfortunately. And I think you are paying that English tax. I think, honestly, I mean, maybe Michael will disagree with this, but if Villa had gone down, I think we would have wrapped up Grealish early. And I don't know if he's gone for Van de Beek. But look, Grealish, just because he's not a foreign name, people are looking down at him. Because he's got a big price tag, people are looking down at him. But what he has, I think, which Van de Beek doesn't, is he's a progressive ball carrier. So against that high press, he could play a little bit deeper and carry and win fouls and allow us to control the game. So 2 excellent players, but yeah, I think they're very different.
Yeah, before we carry on, guys, I just want to say, obviously, as I said at the start of the video, we're getting so close now to 1,000 subscribers. So if you are watching there, give the subscribe button a smash, give the like button a smash, share, whatever you want to do, put it out there. If you're watching on Twitch, why don't you jump over to YouTube? We're getting some great comments coming in from the guys. I'm going to read out one of the comments now from Brown Knight. I put it up there a bit ago about his spatial awareness, and it sort of backs up what you were saying, James. Obviously, you told us to watch a video, a little montage of him, and just watch his movement off the ball. And actually, I watched a video last night, and one of his trademarks seems to be his sort of late runs into the box, almost like, dare I say it, Paul Scholes-esque or, Frank Lampard-esque. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And I think he'll relish that in the Premier League. I think he really will. It's a great grounding in Eredivisie. You've only got to look at the teams in the Premier League and the intensity of the Premier League, and I really do think it's something that he's going to relish.
Yeah, no, thank you. And, Michael, it's one of the biggest questions, and it's come up in the comments. I'm going to have to ask you. People always wonder about shirt numbers, don't they? If I'm right, I think he wears number 6 at the moment at Ajax. Is that right? I think that's correct, isn't it? And obviously, I don't feel like Paul Pogba's going to be giving up his number 6 shirt for it. But there has been some suggestions that he might get the number 16 shirt, and it's interesting. Obviously, we've had some good number 8-16 combinations in United's midfield before, with the likes of Scholes and Nicky Butt and Roy Keane and Michael Carrick and players like that. It's also been suggested he might wear number 34 as a tribute to one of his friends in the Ajax academy. Can you give the fans any sort of inclination into what number he might wear? Because I think people just seem very keen to know.
I couldn't tell you, to be honest with you, which number he'll wear. But that rumour about number 34, Abdullah Nouri, the player, of course, who collapsed on the pitch a couple of years back. I wouldn't be surprised if he chooses number 34 because Joel Veltman, his old Ajax teammate, did exactly the same at Brighton when he signed. So look out for that. That could be one, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that would be a nice touch. But like I say, Hayder, I don't think there's any chance that he'll be getting the number 6 shirt, unfortunately. But a lot of people have suggested, though, Hayder, that he may provide some serious competition for Paul Pogba in terms of the position that Paul Pogba plays at United. And obviously, although we know he's going to be staying this summer, Paul Pogba, he doesn't seem any closer at the moment to sign a new contract. Could he be a player that's brought in with a view to maybe replacing Pogba in the long term?
That was my initial thoughts when I saw this deal. I just think that, if I'm being honest, I love Paul Pogba. I think there's not many players out there that are better than him when he's in full swing. I don't think if we're selling Paul Pogba, there are many players that you can buy who are available that are better. You can maybe look over at Saul Niguez from Atletico, who would be a good player to buy. You could also look over at Sergej Milinkovic-Savic at Lazio. So there is a few options, but my honest view is that if money had come in for Paul Pogba from Juventus or Real Madrid, that was an acceptable fee, I think he'd be off. But it gives United a year. It gives United a year to, one, perhaps even prove to Pogba that United's project is more progressive and it is going to be more successful than what's going over, let's say, at Juventus. Because I wouldn't say that Juventus are in a better situation than United. They don't have the money to spend. They're possibly losing Rodrigo de Paul to Leeds. I mean, this is Juventus we're talking about. They've obviously got an inexperienced manager. So when you're looking at the two clubs, and also Real Madrid, they don't have the money to spend. United are in a very good position. They could build something really excellent here. So I honestly think that if he has a good season and United are challenging, he'll stay. But it's that forward thinking that I want to see from United, that, look, Pogba might sign an extension, but there's no guarantee that he wants to stay on for the long term. But having a player like Van De Beek who can be eased in slowly as the season goes on, and then having him ready for the season after is a great sort of forward thinking and planning we have not seen from United in a long time. So honestly, that was my first thought, and I would not be surprised to see Pogba sign a contract, leave next summer, and Van De Beek to take that position. So yeah, that is my thinking. I know a lot of United fans might not want to hear that, but that's the reality. Pogba, if someone had paid the fee, he would have been gone by now.
Yeah, no, I think I think that's fair enough. And actually, the from what I'm seeing in the comments, it's quite split whether we should sell Pogba or we shouldn't. And I think that's just a general consensus among United fans. Now, Michael, obviously you are a Villa fan, and we've all mentioned that you're wearing a Villa shirt. But there is links to Jack Grealish and obviously Donny van De Beek as well. And in your opinion, do you think this, United signing Donny van De Beek now is probably a sign that they'll probably drop their interest in Jack Grealish, or could you see them pursuing a move for him as well? And could you see a team where Donny and someone like Jack Grealish link up together? Yeah,
so I've been fortunate enough, of course, as a Villa fan and a Dutch football fan, to watch Jack Grealish and Donny van De Beek very close the last few years. For me, the Van De Beek is the signing instead of Grealish, because I think, like you were saying, Hader, that Grealish would have been off had Villa been relegated. That hasn't happened. That has therefore driven Grealish's price up to the roof, and therefore I think Jack more likely to now stay at Villa, unless maybe a club from abroad comes in for him. And Donny van De Beek will be, he's Man United's new midfielder who's very technical. I think they'll be looking for that technical midfielder, like you say, to link for defence and attack. They're very different players, though. I think they're both intelligent, but in different ways. Jack's better on the ball, but Donny's better off the ball. I think that, you're going to see a lot more action from Donny within the opposition penalty area. He's going to be feeding a lot of scraps, scoring a lot of goals, lots of assists. Really, he's just really quick on his feet within the box, where he might dummy it or he might just lay it off for a teammate who's going to take a strike. Whereas Jack, much more of a ball carrier, linking at the play. I don't think United would have signed him to play in the wings. I think he would have been signed as either a 10 or an 8. And that's the same position as what Van De Beek will play. I think it's, again, a flexible one, whether Van De Beek or Grealish had signed, where they might have ended up playing. Van De Beek's a man. And this is hard for me to say as a Villa fan, but I think Van De Beek's better. Only just. They're very good in their different ways, slightly different midfielders. But Jack's better on the ball, whereas Van De Beek, you're going to get a lot more off it. I think that they might have to change slightly the way they play United just to fit around how Van De Beek plays in the box. It's got to be quick. It's got to be technical. I don't think he wants cross after cross coming in for him to try and win. I think he's very much an on-the-ground kind of footballer.
Interesting you say that, Michael, because when I see him, and I've only ever seen him on clips, he looks a big lad, to be fair to him. He looks tall, he looks like he's quite powerful. Obviously, he plays in midfield. Is heading something that's not really forte, would you say? Is that one of his weaknesses?
I wouldn't say it's a strength or weakness, to be honest. I just think that when it comes to things like attacking balls in the box, he's better with his feet than his head. I wouldn't say he's a sort of shadow striker though, who's exceptionally tall and going to win loads of headers, especially in England as well. You can be made to look very good in the Netherlands in the air. Because a lot of defenders are very big and powerful. They're actually just very good footballers. That comes first before the physical strength. In England, that's going to be very different for him.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Well, interesting comment here from Jack Kernick. We've got VDB. Sorry, I've got to get used to saying that, to play alongside Pogba or bench to start with. I think it'll depend, obviously, on tactics, won't it? I think I'm thinking when we play against maybe the bottom six at home, I would love to see us go with a midfielder. Donny almost as set up as a holding midfield player with Pogba and Fernandes more advanced, because I just feel next season, because our reputation's grown this year, we're going to be looking to break down teams a lot more at Old Trafford. I can see teams coming to Old Trafford and sitting back more than they probably have in the last 2 or 3 seasons, because our reputation's come up. So I think we can almost get away with playing them as a midfield three. So I think home games at Old Trafford against teams in the lower half could be really interesting to watch this year. But then when they go away, they might have to think a little bit more how they set up. Obviously, Michael, you said there that it reminds you of a bit of a Ji-Sung Park sort of signing. He's tenacious, so his role may change when we go, to the bigger sides. It might be that Matic has to come in for one of those guys. But one thing we do know is that it gives us flexibility with our tactics, doesn't it? Because whatever the situation in the game, we can either go chasing it if we need to and put him on if he's not playing. If we are behind and we've got a Matic on the pitch, he's a great player to bring on and give us a bit more attacking impetus. Would you agree, James?
Absolutely. I think the quality of the Premier League in particular next season, I mean, you've got an excellent lead side under the tutelage of Marcelo Bielsa coming up, along with West Brom and Fulham. Aston Villa stayed up, but are still a massive football club. You only have to go through the 20 names in the Premier League to know the quality involved at home and away from home. So I know it sounds a bit cliche, but I think you're just going to have to take it one game at a time. And I think many fans as well, I think they forget how long a football season actually is. I mean, it feels a lot longer due to the circumstances with Corona, but I think us as fans as well, I think sometimes we forget how long it is, European commitments as well, domestic cups. So my advice is to just take one game at a time and don't forget to enjoy it.
Well, yeah, it's easy for you to say that, James, with no attachment to United. It's been a bit hard to watch United games at times this season, but I do feel players like Donny coming in are only going to help us enjoy watching our team even more. We know what impact Bruno's had, and looking at Donny, he gets his fair share of goals and assists as well, so I can see him bringing a lot more joy to us. Now, one thing I do want to ask you guys before we leave, because I so appreciate your time. It's obviously been said, and we know from previous that United and Ajax have got a good relationship, with each other. We've done deals before. Obviously, Daley Blind's made the move, other players too. And like I said to you, James, off air, for me, Ajax is still one of the best football factories in the world. You're still producing great young players. You've only got to look at the players that have moved on over the last couple of years, Frenkie de Jong, De Ligt, people like that, and obviously Donny himself. Do you think we could expect to see, can you give us a heads up about any other players that we could expect to see make the move from Ajax to United or to any other big clubs? Is there any other young names we should keep an eye on?
Well, I think to switch it a little bit, I think it would be good to shine a light on the other work that other clubs do. And Michael can vouch for the excellent work that Arsène Alkmaar have been doing. And if you're gonna ask me for a name who I think would go on to do very well in the Premier League, I would go for Arsène Alkmaar winger Calvin Stengs. He's a fantastic young, who come back from a terrible knee injury and played a huge part in our successful season last season. So looking ahead to good young Dutch players that could well make an impact in the Premier League, I think Calvin Stengs could well be one of them in the future.
Yeah, no, thank you for that, mate. And what about you, Michael? Is there any players that you've seen sort of coming through? I mean, obviously United have been linked with a left winger a left back this summer, and obviously Tagliafico apparently is available for transfer. But I mean, I know he's not an Ajax sort of product, but obviously he's developed massively there. Is he a player that you think big clubs should be looking at this year?
Yeah, first of all, with young players, James's choice, Calvin Stengs. There's a lot of top Dutch sides that have got lots of young Dutch players at the moment. I'll talk about those in a second. Tagliafico. I think he's destined to play at a European top club. He's a bit of a late bloomer in his career. It's coming towards the end of his 20s, and he'll be looking to move this summer. Be interesting if United went in for another Ajax player, wouldn't it? Yeah, certainly a left back is capable at the top level. In terms of some other Dutch youngsters, you've got to keep your eye on players such as Myron Boadu, who's also at AZ Alkmaar, along with Calvin Stengs. At PSV, Daniel Marlon, really quick striker who's scoring goals for fun before his injury last season. And also at PSV, you've got Mohamed Ihatardin, who's a teenager and a regular for PSV as well. Another one that's just sprung to mind as well. He's often compared a little bit to Pogba in his playing style. Ryan Gravenberch, really good Ajax midfielder. Again, an 18-year-old who's like starting games for Ajax. It's crazy. Yeah, so many names. That's why I watch Dutch football. And I think I should shamelessly give a little plug here as well. You can watch Dutch football in the UK. We're sponsored by Premier Sports, who can give you at least 3 live games a week from the Dutch league. And I'll do the same again next season.
Yeah, brilliant. And to be honest with you, I've seen a bit of Dutch football over the years. We have had sort of fleetings of it on English TV, and you're always guaranteed to see good football. It's the Dutch, obviously. So, yeah, no, give that a go, definitely. One question that's coming, and I'll finish with you, James. I just want to ask you about this quickly. People are saying that he's had some incredible performances in the Champions League. And I mean, again, that's probably because that's a lot of what they've seen. But do you think there's something about the Champions League or European football that brings the best out of Donny?
Absolutely. I think the whole group as a collective, especially in the run to the Champions League semi-final, they enjoyed every single game. They were completely underestimated against Real Madrid, against Juventus, also against Tottenham. Everybody would write them off round after round after round, and they kept going as a collective. And I think it's something they all relish together as a group, and I think it's a great grounding for players such as Van De Beek when going on to play trade in the Premier League.
No, thank you very much, guys. And that's about all we've got time for. But I do want to say a massive thank you to you, James, to you, Michael, and obviously to you, Hader. Thanks for coming on again, mate. It's been great to do this. I'm absolutely buzzing about this signing. I just can't wait to see him holding that shirt now. I'm just praying that everything goes well with the medicals, and looking forward to seeing him hopefully make his debut on the 19th against Crystal Palace, a home game where you think it'd be an ideal start for him to maybe get a few minutes, if not start. So that'll be brilliant. Like I've said, guys, we're so close to 1,000 subscribers. If you've enjoyed the video today, please subscribe to the channel. There's not just a transfer on here. We do loads of incredible things. We've got some great shows coming up. We've got a meeting next week to discuss our plans for next season. There's going to be some massive things happening on this channel. So do subscribe, because I don't want you to miss out. Give the video a like, share it. And all I've got time to say is, again, thanks very much for coming on, guys. Your insight's been brilliant today. And hopefully we'll catch up with you again in the future if we sign any more Dutch players. But for now, that's all we've got time for. And I'll see you on Friday for just another United transfer show. Cheers, guys.
You're more than welcome. Take care, everyone.